Rabbinical greetings. Good week. How are you doing? So
Doing
we're gonna
well,
do
Rabbi.
So we're gonna do a 5-minute Torah portion class before we start the Ezekiel class this week. I found an interesting medrash on the Torah portion of Chukas. This is from the Medrash Yulam Deno, discussing what happened after the passing of Miriam, and then the people complained. And I noticed there was no plague among the people for complaining. Right now, of course, in this portion, we're at the end of 38 years since the sin of the spies, and so that the previous generation already paid the price for their complainings. But here again, we have a complaining against God with this exact same language. Why'd you bring us out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? Wouldn't this be a natural place for sins of the fathers to apply? This is a question that occurred to me when I was reading this Torah portion. But there's no plague among the people, no attack by the Amalekites, nothing, except in a sense something worse. Moses and Aaron passed away, and or were slated to pass away in this week's Torah portion. But if you see it, if you consider it, it's like a role reversal. Previously, when they complained in the previous generation, then the complainers passed away. But here they complained and their leaders passed away. So what's this process that's happening here? Now, the traditional viewpoint is that Moses and Aaron made a mistake for their level, so therefore they were punished for that. But there is a medrash that gives a room for a different interpretation. It's very interesting. Okay, so this is cited on verse chapter 20, verse 2 of Numbers in the Medrash Otzer HaMedrashim, collection of Medrashim, and then it's quoting the Medrash Yulam Deno. So when Moses and Aaron were sitting in mourning for Miriam, as per custom, said to them, the Holy One, blessed be He, because you are in mourning, the people should die from thirst. Stand and take your staff and give water to the people. You understand? So that's interesting. That's implying that there was another mistake besides at their level. There was a mistake simply at a leadership level. That the needs of the nation do not end because of a personal need. So, therefore, if Moses was having a difficulty to make a speech when he was in mourning for his sister because of the great emotions, he could have sent Joshua around to the camps and tell them, don't worry, even though the water stopped because of the death of the righteous Miriam, Hashem will provide water soon. Reassure them that the source of water did not dry up. It's like, it's like telling a mother with 12 kids, the husband lost the job, without explaining there is another source for food for the kids. So first tell the mother that there's going to be food for the kids, and then she's not going to be worried, even if there was a bad news. So that was not addressed. He did not speak to the people. He did not send Joshua to speak to the people. They were just mourning their personal mourning, and because of the greatness of Miriam, prophet of God, apparently he felt certainly justified to drop everything and give honor to her memory. And in the case of Moshe Rabbeinu, remember she watched over him when he was a little baby in the Nile. So he had a personal debt of gratitude to her, and at a different level, he felt like he owed her his life in a sense. Mm. Nevertheless, the people were in fear, and that's not what a good leader does. So this creates a different concept completely from the normal interpretations about the mistake of Moses and Aaron. It's not just that they didn't speak to they hit the rock, they didn't speak to the rock, which is of course following the literal admonition from heaven. But it is because in the language of the Gemara, this would be under the classification of bonus. If you begin with a negligence and end with an accident, so it's a negligent act. So apparently the Medrash Yolam Deno is going according to these terms, that he made a mistake by letting the people live in fear for even one day. Why should he have known? Because the merit of Miriam kept the ball going. But what's the implication? That if even the great Miriam died in the wilderness, so who could possibly merit to enter the Holy Land? So it was a reasonable fear that should have been addressed before they felt it. It was just her time, but God is going to bring the rest of us into the Holy Land. Mm. Because they didn't say that, and Aaron didn't admonish Moses to say it, so therefore they were not worthy or able to enter the Holy Land. Of course, it's hard to say they're not worthy, but they are destined to enter the Holy Land after Mashiach comes and there's the resurrection of the dead. Don't worry. But it's just a question: what happened? It's not just that they're on a very high level and they had a very high test. It was a matter of this is a normal leadership thing you have to do, and you can't let people fear that they're going to die of thirst or their child could die of thirst. God forbid. If you're a leader, you have to first reassure their concerns, or have an alternate like Joshua take care of that, so then the people don't suffer. You understand? So what that would mean, if you want to go according to the Medrash Yolam Denu's perspective, you have to say, when God said, you didn't speak to the rock, you hit the rock. So then the normative interpretation would have to be, this God is being figurative, not literal. God, so in other words, from the perspective of Medrash Yolam Denu, God didn't care so much if the rock was hit or not. What God cared about was that instead of speaking to the people, he treated them like a rock. And so therefore it's a euphemism to not give harsh admonition to the holy Moses. So it's described as because he hit the rock, rather than saying because he didn't speak as he should have to the people, God forbid, because he's the giver of the Torah. So this also explains why this is not the normal teaching of the Midrashim. This is, because the normal way is to not criticize Moses at all. But from the perspective of the Medrash Yolam Denu, I think it's trying to do a tzedek adin, that how do we reconcile that Moses was punished? He saw the children of the previous generation repeating the same sin when he was overwhelmed with grief for his sister. How could he be blamed for failing that test? So therefore, to defend God's honor, the Medrash Lamdino says no. At some level, Moses had some sort of a not ideal leadership that led to this. So it just it's very interesting. I thought I should share that medrash. Again, this is not the normal way of describing it, but it does resolve the question of, if a person says it was only a rock, how could Moses and Aaron be lost to the people over that? But again, every time there was a complaint, somebody died. And in this case, they lost their leaders, which is, of course, also tragic. It wasn't good for the people either. But so remember, with sins of the fathers, the sin only works to bring guilt if they are trying to relive the sin of the fathers. In this case, it was a unusual circumstance. The source of their water spiritually was known to be Miriam. And then she was removed from the world. They all expected this righteous woman to enter the Holy Land alive. And suddenly she was taken. So if she is taken, who could not be taken?
Right.
You understand. So this medrash, I think, is very powerful. Even if we don't normally go there, we don't normally try to criticize someone as holy as Moses. Nevertheless, it does resolve a couple potential questions out there that I didn't previously find a resolution to. But it's I still revere and love Moses, so don't worry. Okay. All right.
Thank you for sharing that, Rabbi.
Oh, sure.
One thing that I found very interesting about that is people complained at my work and we lost our leadership.
Oh, that's right.
Well, I guess it's better than a plague among the workers.
So it's like,
true.
but it's people look at that and the reality of it is true. When you complain, it
doesn't lead to good things.
Yeah. So,
yeah, it's
but
a very powerful
good
message. Yeah, it's very powerful that this is the common theme in both perspectives. Whether you want to say Moses only made a mistake at his level, or whether you want to say Moses made a mistake because of his pain for his sister. Either way, the common theme is complaining is bad. And this is the amazing thing. This is the first sin of this generation, quote unquote, if it was a sin. Medrash Lamdino makes it less likely it was a sin, even a sin. But it's just that even if without the 10 sins of the spies weighing down on them, it still had the capacity to bring death in its wake. Wow. Really, really profound, So again, it's a really interesting level that I guess if I read this before, it didn't sink in, but today when I was reading it, I just thought I should share this. Okay, so thank you for learning Torah portion with me. Let's start Ezekiel.